Something unusual is happening across Africa and the Middle East. In Sudan, a militia accused of genocide is sweeping through cities with drones and artillery. In Libya, a warlord backed by foreign air power once came close to capturing the capital. In Yemen, secret prisons and mercenary armies have operated in the shadows for years. And in each of these conflicts, one surprising actor keeps appearing: the United Arab Emirates, a small desert federation with a population smaller than Lagos, yet somehow capable of reshaping entire regions. Behind skyscrapers and tourist cities, the UAE has quietly built one of the world's most aggressive foreign policy machines. But what does this country actually want? To understand that, we must start this story with the strategy driving everything. The UAE's foreign policy rests on three foundations: regime survival, regional dominance, and economic relevance in a world beyond oil. All roads lead back to Mohammed bin Zayed, MBZ, the country's de facto ruler for 2 decades. For MBZ, two forces represent existential threats: political Islam and democratic movements. These fears didn't come from nowhere. The Arab Spring in 2011 terrified the Gulf monarchies. Across the region, long-standing dictators were suddenly overthrown by popular uprisings. Islamist parties won elections in Egypt and Tunisia. Protesters filled streets from Bahrain to Syria. To the UAE leadership, this wasn't democracy, it was a looming danger. If mass protests and elections could topple rulers across the region, then no monarchy was safe. And if the Muslim Brotherhood could win elections, they could inspire similar movements inside the Gulf. The solution was quite simple: fight democracy abroad to protect authoritarian stability at home. This became the doctrine that shaped every major conflict the UAE touched.
Protesters tried once again to march towards Pearl Square. Once again, they were met by security forces.
The first battlefield was in Bahrain. In March 2011, Emirati troops joined Saudi forces to crush pro-democracy demonstrations. It was a warning to the region. The Gulf would not tolerate political reform. Then came Egypt. When Egypt elected Mohamed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood, the UAE considered it a disaster. Within a year, the Emirati leadership pushed for a military takeover in that country. They bankrolled the anti-Morsi movement, supported the 2013 coup, and helped consolidate Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's new authoritarian regime. Billions flowed into Cairo as a reward. Egypt became the template: back military strongmen, crush democratic openings, eliminate Islamist groups entirely. This same logic would later reappear in Libya, Yemen, and now in Sudan. But who runs this operation? Although the UAE looks like a modern state with ministries and institutions, foreign policy is controlled by a small royal circle known as the Bani Fatima. MBZ and his 5 full brothers. MBZ sets strategy and commands the military. Tanun bin Zayed, National Security Advisor, he oversees intelligence, black ops networks, AI companies, and a business portfolio worth more than $1 trillion. Mansour bin Zayed, the Vice President, controls sovereign wealth funds, global investments, and high-level economic diplomacy. Abdallah bin Zayed manages diplomacy. This is a tiny group with enormous power, making fast decisions with almost no oversight. And that speed, combined with fear-driven strategic thinking, has produced some of the most consequential interventions in the region. Now, let's come back home to Africa. To understand the UAE's reach into Africa, you need only follow 3 things: gold, ports, and farmland. Gold is the fuel. Sudan has become one of the world's major gold producers, and almost all of that gold, legal or smuggled, ends up in Dubai. Up to 90% of Sudan's production is trafficked through neighboring countries before reaching UAE buyers. This gold finances warlords and militias, especially the Rapid Support Forces. Ports are the infrastructure for this movement. The UAE owns or operates strategic ports across the continent: Berbera in Somaliland, Bosaso in Puntland, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Maputo in Mozambique, Luanda in Angola. These are not just commercial projects. They are gateways for military logistics, trade influence, and political leverage. And then we have farmland, which ties directly to survival. With little arable land of its own, the UAE invests heavily in African agriculture to secure food supplies for the future. Sudan, Ethiopia, and others have all signed massive land deals and agricultural agreements with the UAE. This economic footprint gives the UAE leverage over governments and over conflicts. But how do they control these conflicts since they don't fight in them directly? The UAE cannot field a large army. Most of its population are expatriates. Very few Emiratis serve in combat roles. To solve this, the country built a foreign military machine. It began with this guy, Eric Prince, founder of Blackwater, who helped create a mercenary army of Colombian fighters stationed in the UAE. Companies like Dark Matter, Black Shield, and other private military contractors, they recruit soldiers from Africa, Latin America, and Asia. Many Sudanese recruits who thought they were signing for security jobs were secretly shipped to Libya and Yemen as fighters. Alongside the mercenary is advanced drone warfare. The UAE operates Chinese-made Wing-Long 2 drones equipped with Blue Arrow missiles used in Libya, Sudan, and Yemen. These drones allow the UAE to fight wars without risking Emirati lives and without leaving footprints either. This model became the backbone of two major interventions, first being Libya and now in Sudan.
Libyans are increasingly frustrated and desperate for change.
I want now new Libya!
You see, shortly after Libya's revolution in 2011, the UAE saw an opportunity to prevent Islamist parties from entering government. Their solution was a former Gaddafi general named Khalifa Haftar. The UAE supplied him with everything: drones, armored vehicles, fuel, ammunition, even an airbase built specifically for his forces. Between January and February 2020 alone, the UAE sent more than 6,000 tons of weapons to Haftar, despite a UN arms embargo. For years, Haftar looked unstoppable. He controlled eastern Libya and its oil crescent, and in 2019, he launched an attack on Tripoli to seize the capital. UAE drones pounded the city. Civilian areas were hit, a migrant detention center, a biscuit factory, residential neighborhoods. But the plan collapsed when Turkey intervened militarily on the other side. Turkish drones overwhelmed Emirati systems. Haftar's forces retreated hundreds of kilometers. The UAE had backed a strongman who could not win. Libya became a lesson. Money and drones can build influence, but they cannot guarantee a victory. But this didn't stop the Gulf country from backing yet another strongman in Africa. And here comes Sudan. The UAE's relationship with the Rapid Support Forces, which are descendants of the Janjaweed militias responsible for the Darfur genocide, began all with gold and deepened during the Yemen war, where RSF fighters served as foot soldiers for the UAE. When Sudan's 2023 civil war erupted between the RSF and the Sudanese armed forces, the UAE took a side. Not publicly, but through weapons shipments, drones, cash networks, and mercenary trainers. Cargo planes moved from Abu Dhabi to Chad. Drone systems and artillery pieces arrived near the Sudanese border. Wounded RSF fighters were treated in UAE hospitals. Gold flowed back to Dubai through RSF-connected companies. The result has been catastrophic. In 2025, as the RSF captured El Fasher, Darfur's last major city, satellite imagery detected mass killings, blood-soaked grounds, and bodies lying near RSF vehicles. UN officials described the violence as Rwanda-level extermination. More than 150,000 people have been killed in this war, nearly 12 million displaced, entire communities wiped out. And much of the RSF's firepower, that is the drones, vehicles, ammunition, they all traced back to the UAE. So now the question we ask is, why does the UAE push this hard? Well, for starters, because it is locked in multiple rivalries against Qatar and Turkey, who support political Islam. It is also in subtle competition with Saudi Arabia. Despite public friendship, the country is balancing hostility and economic dependence with Iran. It is partnering with Russia and China for strategic autonomy and cultivating deep military ties with the United States, which gives Abu Dhabi protection from international consequences. The UAE has learned that As long as it remains useful to major powers, it can act freely across Africa. While fighting wars abroad, the UAE projects a different image at home, a country of tolerance, a hub of innovation, a global brand polished through events, culture, and sports. Yeah, Manchester City becomes a soft power weapon. The Abrahamic family house promotes interfaith messaging. International lobbying firms shape media narratives in Washington and Brussels. Cyber operations like Project Raven and Dark Matter, they monitor dissidents, journalists, and rival governments. The public image is modern and enlightened. The reality is militarized and interventionist, and there is a human cost to this operation. Across the region, ordinary people pay the price. Yemen's secret prisons and assassinations, Libya's airstrikes and shattered neighborhoods, Sudan's burned villages, mass graves, and famine-level starvation. Behind every drone strike and weapons shipment, there is a strategy. Behind every strategy, a decision made by a handful of men in Abu Dhabi. So, what does the UAE really want? Ultimately, the UAE seeks 4 things. Survival. Prevent any democratic or Islamist movement from rising anywhere nearby. And there is also control. They want to shape the political landscape of the Middle East and Africa. They also want leverage. They use ports, gold, land, and investment to dominate trade and politics. They want power, to build an empire of influence without calling it one. This is the story of a small state with a giant shadow. A country that has mastered the art of modern intervention, fighting wars through proxies, buying influence through ports and gold, and shaping narratives through soft power. As conflicts continue to burn from Libya to Sudan, one question remains: who will finally hold this shadow empire accountable?